Hope you enjoyed that break. Now please join me in welcoming our next guest, Dr. Luke. Hey, it's good to see you. Thanks for having me on your show. It's a pleasure to have you on the show today. So I understand you have a new book that just came out, and before we go in and start asking questions about it, I thought we would show a little introductory clip to our audience. Are you tired of greedy CEOs leading America's corporations? Do you wonder why many live in excess with millions to spare while others are going hungry and suffering? Do you want to see all that change? Hi, my name's Luke, and this is my new book, The Acts of the Community, a guide to doing business to serve the whole. By casting aside greed and the desire to climb the ladder of success and status, and instead embracing servant leadership and generosity, the purpose of doing business changes. Business becomes a means of serving the whole community rather than the self. In this book, you will find 7 simple chapters that show you what a community is and how a business can serve a community. Pick up your copy today and be the change that you want to see. Wow, I am truly inspired. Would you mind telling us a little bit how you wrote this book and what that process was like? Most certainly. I set out to write a book all about what the lives of the apostles could teach us about doing business. But as I explored this topic deeper, I realized that I was really doing a study of community and how one could function and what the purpose of a community is. So my perspective then shifted. This book became about answering the question of how does business fit into a community rather than how do we do business according to the book of Acts. Great stuff, Luke. So, as I read the book, there was one chapter that really stood out to me. Chapter 5. I was hoping you could tell us a little bit about what you meant by that. Well, sure I can. So this book is really about trying to figure out how business fits into a community. In Chapter 4 and 5, I'm looking at this question of work. In Chapter 4 specifically, I try to look at some of the wrong reasons that people work that are maybe common today. And then in Chapter 5, I'm exploring the question of why we should be working. If working isn't for the accumulation of wealth and for the gaining of status, as we discussed in Chapter 4, then why is it that we work? Before answering that question, it is first important to know that this book is really about communities. So the answer then to why we work is actually for the benefit of the community. In my book, there are a number of stories of individual people stepping up and doing something for the betterment of the community as a whole. So in Chapter 4 of Acts, there are individuals selling their possessions to care for the whole community. And then all throughout Paul's journeys, in the later part of the Acts, there are people going out of their way to bless Paul. And then Paul himself intentionally takes time to build up the community and encourage others. All these individual actions are for one specific cause, and that is to build up the community. The most relevant example to this study of business in Acts is the selling of possessions. Selling possessions sounds a lot like selling anything else. This is what business is. In Acts, these people are selling possessions to make money and then to support each other when there's needs. This is exactly what we should be doing today. Selling things. Selling insurance, cars, shoes, food, anything. And then taking that profit to help our families, our communities, and everyone else. That is why we work. Wow, that seems really interesting. It's very logical, yet we don't see it happen very often. Do you have any idea why this might be? Yes, I do have a theory. It seems that many people work to support themselves, their egos, their desires, and their families. So in a very small way, people are doing this. By working, they're supporting their own very small community, which is their family. In Chapter 6, I talk about one of the main functions of a community being caring for the needy, and that is happening on this small scale of families in most scenarios. But if you read on into Chapter 7 of my book, you will discover that caring for the needy within your own small community or even family is not all a community is supposed to be doing. In Acts, there is this upward progression of generosity. In Acts chapter 2 and 4, the care is distributed on a small scale to members of the community. But then in chapter 11, we see the church in Antioch giving to support churches who are in need from the famine. Then, continuing on, we see that Paul in his missionary journey being supported by people that he's never even met. And beyond just being supported, they're actually welcoming him into their homes. And then the peak of this generosity is found in chapter 28, right at the end of the book. In chapter 28, we see a group of people shipwrecked on an island with all sorts of needs, and they are welcomed very graciously by a group of strangers, these people who they've never met, and they're cared for in every way. So the problem then is in our definition of community. Some care for their community just by caring for their family. But Acts seems to suggest caring for a community is really caring for anyone who is in need. Wow, incredible stuff, Luke. Well, we're just about out of time. Anything you'd like to say in conclusion? This book is exploring how business can serve a community, and then how a community can, without discrimination, serve the needy, whoever they may be. Luke, thank you so much for being on our show. Yeah, it's been great. Thanks for having me.